Taman pressed his palm against the cold metal wall of the ship's corridor as another explosion shook the horizon's edge. Red emergency lights painted everything in blood. Someone screamed down the hallway. The artificial gravity flickered, making his stomach lurch. All hands to escape pods. "This is not a drill!" The captain's voice crackled through the speakers, barely audible over the alarms. 3 months ago, Taman had been building bridges on Earth. Now he was running for his life through a dying starship 20 light-years from home. The Velkari had made sure humanity's first contact with alien life would be their last. Another blast tore through the hull. The ship groaned like a wounded animal. Taman grabbed a handhold as the floor tilted beneath him. Through a nearby viewport, he saw them. The Velkari warships hung in space like crimson daggers, beautiful and terrible. Their weapons fired in pulses of purple light. Each pulse meant another section of his ship turned to debris. "Taman, move!" Jan grabbed his shoulder, pulling him forward. His friend's face was cut and bleeding, but his eyes were sharp. Behind them, Mina stumbled, clutching her side. Blood seeped between her fingers. "I can make it," she gasped. "Just go," they ran. The ship was dying around them. Crew members pushed past, desperate to reach the pods. Some weren't going to make it. Taman knew this. He had done the math in his head the moment the attack started. Not enough pods. Not enough time. The escape pod bay was chaos. People fought to get inside the small vessels. An officer tried to maintain order, but nobody listened. Fear had taken over. Taman, Jan, and Mina squeezed into Pod 7 along with 12 others. Too many. The pod was meant for 10. Seal it. Seal it now. Someone shouted. The door hissed shut. Through the small window, Taman saw people still running down the corridor. Their faces pressed against the glass, begging. Then the pod launched, slamming them all against the back wall. Space swallowed them. The horizon's edge exploded in silence, a bloom of orange fire that faded to nothing. Dozens of other pods scattered like seeds in wind. The Velkari ships moved through the debris field, their weapons picking off pods one by one. "They're killing survivors," Mina whispered. "They're hunting us." One of the Velkari ships broke formation. It was larger than the others, covered in gold markings. A command vessel. It turned toward their pod cluster. "Brace for evasive," the pilot shouted. But pods didn't have much in the way of controls. They were just metal eggs falling through space. The purple light came again. Pods 3 and 5 vanished in silent flashes. Pod 7 shook as debris pelted its hull. Someone was praying. Someone else was crying. Taman just held on. Then everything changed. A planet loomed below them, brown and blue. New Busan, a colony world. The pod's computer started screaming warnings. They were going in too fast at the wrong angle. The Velkari command ship fired one more shot. It missed the pod but struck nearby, sending them spinning. The atmosphere caught them like a hand. The pod became an oven. Metal glowed red. The heat shields were failing. Taman could smell burning plastic. Then they hit. The impact was violence, pure and simple. Taman's head snapped forward. Something cracked. The world became pain and darkness and the taste of copper. The pod rolled, tumbling down what felt like a mountain. Each rotation brought new agony. Finally, they stopped. Silence. Taman's ears rang. He tasted blood. Slowly, the world came back into focus. The pod had landed on its side. Bodies pressed against him. He pushed at them, trying to move. Some pushed back. Others didn't. "Out," Jan's voice, rough and broken. "We need out fire." Smoke was filling the pod. Taman kicked at the emergency release once, twice. The door flew open and they spilled out onto red dirt. The air was thin but breathable. Taman dragged himself away from the pod, then turned back to help Mina. Her face was pale. Of the 15 people in the pod, 5 walked away. 10 didn't. The colony stretched before them, or what remained of it. New Busan had been humanity's first real settlement beyond the solar system. 30,000 people had lived here, past tense. The Velkari had been thorough. Buildings stood like broken teeth against the sky. Fires burned in the distance. The air tasted of ash. "Look," Jan pointed up. The Velkari command ship descended through the clouds like a falling cathedral. It was damaged, trailing smoke. Someone had hit it. Maybe New Busan's defense grid before it fell. The ship's landing was barely controlled. It crashed into the far side of the city, maybe 3 kilometers away. "They survived too," Mina said quietly. She sat on the ground, still holding her side. The bleeding had slowed but not stopped. "We need medical supplies." Taman looked at their pod. It was a wreck. The emergency kit had been crushed in the landing. He looked at the ruins of the colony. Somewhere in that maze of destroyed buildings there would be supplies, and somewhere else Velkari soldiers would be looking for the same thing. The survivors gathered what they could. A few weapons from the pod's emergency locker, some water, a hand radio that barely worked. They were engineers and technicians, not soldiers. But the war had come to them anyway. The hospital, one of the other survivors said. His name was Junho, older, with gray in his hair. Central Hospital. It's built into bedrock. Might have survived. They started walking. The city was a corpse they had to navigate. Bodies lay in the streets, some human, some not. The Velkari had invaded before destroying the place. Taman tried not to look at faces. Tried not to imagine what the last days had been like here. Above them, more ships burned through the atmosphere. The battle wasn't over. It was just getting started. New Busan had become valuable for all the wrong reasons. Both sides wanted it now, not for what it was, but for where it was. Strategic value. That's what the military called it. Taman called it home once, a long time ago. Before the war. Before the Velkari. Before everything changed. The hospital loomed ahead, half-collapsed but still standing. They moved carefully through the rubble. Inside, emergency lights flickered. Medical supplies were scattered everywhere. They started gathering what they could carry. That's when Taman heard it. A sound, movement. He turned, raising his weapon. On the other side of the room, figures moved in the shadows. They wore armor that shifted colors, adapting to the light. Velkari. For a moment, nobody moved. Human and alien stared at each other across a destroyed hospital room, both desperate, both armed, both far from home. Then someone fired. The war had found them again. The first shot went wide, punching through a cabinet of medical supplies. Glass exploded across the floor. Taman dove behind a fallen surgical table as return fire lit up the darkness. The Velkari weapons made a sound like tearing fabric. Purple, energy that left scorch marks on everything it touched. "Fall back," Hyan shouted, firing his pistol. The small human weapon looked pathetic compared to the Velkari rifles, but it made them duck. Taman crawled across broken glass, his hands getting cut. He grabbed Mina's arm and pulled her toward the doorway. She was too slow, her injury making her clumsy. More shots filled the air. One of the other survivors went down, his chest smoking. The Velkari moved like water, fast and fluid. There were 4 of them in armor that seemed alive, shifting from gray to brown to match the walls, but they were cautious too. They had seen humans fight before. "Medical supplies," a voice said. "Not human." The words were accented, wrong somehow, but understandable. "Leave them. Retreat and live." Taman's blood went cold. They spoke English. They had learned his language just to tell his people to die. "Go to hell." Hyan fired again, catching one of the Velkari in the shoulder. The alien stumbled but didn't fall. Their armor absorbed most of the impact. Then Taman saw her. She stepped. From behind her soldiers, and even in the chaos, he knew she was different. Her armor was gold and crimson instead of adaptive camouflage. She wore no helmet. Her face was angular, almost human but not quite. Too perfect. Too symmetrical. Her eyes were large and dark, pupilless. Her skin had a faint purple tint in the emergency lights. "Enough," she said, and her soldiers stopped firing instantly. She looked at the humans with something beyond contempt. It was deeper. It was hate so fundamental it seemed genetic. And Taman realized it probably was. "I am Princess Aranel of the Velkari Empire," she announced. "You are vermin. Primitives who stumbled into space and threatened the order of civilized species. My father, the Emperor, has decreed your extinction. This is not war. This is pest control." Her words were calm, matter of fact, like she was describing the weather. "But I am not without mercy," she continued. "Leave these supplies. Leave this building. Die somewhere else. Die slowly from your wounds if you wish. I do not care, but if you fight, I will make your death immediate." Mina coughed blood. The sound echoed in the ruined hospital. Princess Aranel's eyes flickered to her, showing nothing. No sympathy. No recognition of suffering. Just cold calculation. Screw you, Hyun said. He fired again. The Velkari soldiers moved faster than Taemin could follow. They were on Hyun in seconds, disarming him, forcing him to the ground. One pressed a weapon to his head. No! Taemin jumped up, his own weapon raised. But there were too many. He was surrounded before he took 2 steps. Princess Aranel walked forward, her boots crunching on glass. She stopped in front of Hyun, looking down at him like he was an insect. Your species does not understand submission, she said. This is why you cannot be allowed to spread. She raised her hand. Taemin saw what was about to happen. Wait, he shouted. Take me. Exchange. 1 prisoner for the medical supplies and safe passage for the others. The princess turned to him. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Interest, maybe, or amusement. You offer yourself? She asked. Why? Because they're hurt, because they need those supplies, because... Taemin swallowed. Because someone has to. It was quiet. One of the Velkari soldiers said something in their language, harsh and quick. The princess responded in the same tongue. They were arguing. Finally, she looked back at Taemin. No, she said simply. Before he could respond, she nodded. The soldier pressed the trigger. Hyun's body went limp. No! Taemin lunged forward. The Velkari soldiers grabbed him, forced him down. He fought them, screaming. But they were too strong. Impossibly strong. Mina was crying. The other survivors stood frozen in shock. Princess Aranel knelt down so she was level with Taemin's face. Up close he could see her pupils. They were there, just hidden in the darkness of her eyes. They were narrow, predatory. Your offer meant nothing, she said. Your life has no value to me. None of you do. I was born understanding this truth. It is written in my blood, encoded in my cells. When I see your face, every part of my being tells me you are wrong, that you should not exist, that you are a corruption of the natural order. She stood up. This is not hate. Hate is a choice. This is programming. This is what I am. She turned to her soldiers. Take what we need. Leave the rest. As they gathered supplies, Taemin was released. He crawled to Hyun's body, but there was nothing to do. His friend was gone. Just like that. One moment alive, the next erased. The Velkari left without another word. Princess Aranel didn't look back. The hospital was quiet again. Junho helped Mina gather what medical supplies remained. There wasn't much. The Velkari had taken most of it. Taemin sat next to Hyun's body, his hands shaking. We should move, Junho said quietly. More might come. Either side. Taemin wanted to refuse, wanted to stay, but Junho was right. They were exposed here, vulnerable. Slowly, he stood. They couldn't carry Hyun's body, couldn't even bury him properly. They just had to leave him in the ruins. As they made their way out of the hospital, Taemin looked back once. Through a broken window, he saw movement on a distant hill. The Velkari group, moving toward their crashed ship. Princess Aranel was in the lead, her golden armor catching the fading light. She had said she was programmed to hate him, born to see him as less than nothing. And yet she had spoken to him. Explained herself. Why? What did it matter what a pest thought? The question bothered him more than it should. They found shelter in a collapsed apartment building. Junho worked on Mina's wound with what little they had. It wasn't enough. Infection was setting in. She needed real medicine, real care. She needed things they didn't have. I'll find more supplies, Taemin said. That's suicide, Junho replied. The Velkari are everywhere, and even if you avoid them, the city is falling apart. Radiation in some sectors, unstable buildings, gas leaks. She's dying. Junho looked at Mina, then nodded slowly. Then we both go. Someone needs to watch your back. That night, Mina's fever got worse. She talked in her sleep, calling for people who weren't there. Taemin and Junho took turns keeping watch. Through the broken walls, they could see fires burning across the city. Both human and Velkari ships moved overhead. The battle for New Busan was intensifying. At dawn, the sky turned orange. Not from the sun, from weapons fire. Orbital bombardment was starting. Both sides had decided if they couldn't have the colony, neither could. Taemin watched the fire rain down and thought about the princess's words. "This is what I am," she had said. "Born to hate, programmed to kill." What did that make them? What did that make any of this? The question had no answer. Only ash and blood and the sound of a world dying around them. The sky turned brown 3 days after Hyun died. Not from smoke, from dust. A massive storm was coming, the kind that covered half a continent. Taemin saw it on the horizon, a wall of churning earth that blotted out the sun. "Storm shelter," Junho said, pointing at a metal hatch in the street. "The old tunnels. Colony infrastructure. We need to get below." Mina was barely conscious. Her wound had gone from bad to worse. She couldn't walk anymore. Taemin carried her, his muscles screaming. She felt light, too light, like she was fading away. The hatch opened with difficulty. The ladder below descended into darkness. Emergency lights flickered weakly every few meters. The tunnel system was vast, running beneath the entire city. It had been meant for utilities, emergency evacuations, maybe storage. Now it was a maze of concrete and shadow. They went deep. The sound of the wind above became distant, then silent. Down here, the only sound was water dripping somewhere and their own breathing. They found a side chamber with some old supply boxes, military rations years out of date but still sealed, a few bottles of water, a medical kit that had one package of antibiotics left. Junho gave the antibiotics to Mina. She took them without speaking, her eyes glazed. Taemin knew it was too late. The medicine might slow the infection, but it wouldn't stop it. Not now. The storm hit above. Even down in the tunnels they felt it. The walls shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. The emergency lights flickered more urgently. Then somewhere distant something collapsed. The tunnel shook hard enough to knock Taemin off his feet. "Cave in," Junho said. "The storm is destroying what's left up there." "It's collapsing sections," another rumble. Closer this time. A groaning sound filled the tunnel. Taemin grabbed their supplies and ran. Junho tried to lift Mina, but she pushed him away. "Go," she whispered. "I'm done." "Just go." "No. We don't leave people." Taemin reached for her. "You already did," Mina said, her voice sharp despite her weakness. "You left Hyun. You left everyone on the ship. You'll leave me too. That's how survival works." Before Taemin could respond, the tunnel behind them collapsed. Concrete and metal crashed down, filling the corridor with dust and debris. Junho was thrown forward. Taemin was separated, pushed by the blast wave into a side passage. He heard Junho shouting his name. Then nothing, silence, darkness. Taemin's flashlight was gone. His radio was crushed. He was alone in the black with only the sound of his own heartbeat. He felt along the walls, trying to find a way back. But the collapse was complete. Tons of debris blocked the path. He called out. No response. Either they couldn't hear him or they were dead. Taemin picked a direction and walked. The tunnel branched and branched again. He tried to keep track of his turns but lost count. Time became meaningless. Hours passed. Maybe days. He found more supply caches, a working flashlight, water, but no way out. The storm had collapsed sections everywhere. The tunnel system had become a tomb. He was about to give up when he saw light ahead. Not electric, bioluminescent. A Velkari light stick, the kind their soldiers carried. Someone else was alive down here. Taemin approached carefully, his weapon drawn. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, some kind of junction room. And there, sitting against a wall, was Princess Aranel. She was alone. Her golden armor was cracked and dirty. Blood purple and dark stained her side. She held her weapon, but it was pointed at the floor. When she saw Taemin, she didn't raise it. She just looked at him with those dark, unreadable eyes. "You," she said. It wasn't a question. Taemin kept his weapon trained on her. "Where are your soldiers?" "Dead, the storm." "The collapse." She gestured vaguely at the walls. "We were separated. I've been looking for a way out for 2 days. Your ship? Unreachable. Even if I could reach it, I doubt it can fly." She tilted her head. "You're alone too." "I can tell." They stared at each other. The chamber was maybe 10 meters across, small, confined, nowhere to run. Taemin could shoot her. She could shoot him. Both would die. Or both could live. Maybe. Truce, Taman said finally. Until we get out. Princess Aranel was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Agreed. But know this, human. I do not make this choice freely. Every instinct I have is screaming at me to kill you. My head hurts. My skin feels wrong. Being near you is physically painful for me. My body was made to reject your presence, then why agree? Because I am also programmed to survive. And survival here requires tolerance of discomfort. She stood slowly, wincing. I am Princess Aranel of the Velkari Empire. You may use that name, Taman. Combat Engineer, Earth Defense Force. Very well, Taman. She said his name like it tasted bad. Let us find an exit before I change my mind about not killing you. They explored together, maintaining distance. Aranel knew the tunnel system better than Taman. She had accessed the colony's old blueprints before the crash. They found several paths blocked by collapse. Others flooded. Others filled with toxic gas from ruptured lines. Hours passed. They shared water because they had to. Aranel ate ration bars from her pack. She offered none to Taman. He didn't expect her to. When they rested, they sat on opposite sides of chambers, watching each other. Why did you kill my friend? Taman asked during one rest period. Aranel looked at him like he had asked why water was wet. Because he fought back. Because he represented a threat. Because he was human, that's it. That's reason enough? For me, yes, she paused. You don't understand. You think I choose to hate you. I do not. I was made this way. Before I was born, my genetics were modified. My brain was structured to recognize humans as enemy. When I see your face, chemical reactions occur in my mind that produce revulsion. When I hear your voice, my body releases stress hormones. I am in a state of constant alert around you. Fight or flight, always. That's horrible, Taman said. That is Velkari, Aranel responded. We were created to be perfect soldiers. Our hatred of others is not a flaw. It is a feature. The precursors designed us this way, made us to fight their wars. When they died out, we remained. Perfect weapons with no one to aim us, so we aimed ourselves. At everyone. She looked away. I do not expect you to understand. Or to forgive. I simply explain so you know. When I killed your friend, I felt nothing. No guilt, no shame. Just satisfaction of eliminating a threat. That is what I am. Taman absorbed this. It made a horrible kind of sense. The Velkari weren't evil. They were engineered. Built to be what they were. Did that make their actions better or worse? He didn't know. They kept moving. Found another chamber with supplies. This one had blankets, old and musty but dry. They would need them. The temperature was dropping. Life support in the tunnels was failing. We take shifts sleeping, Aranel said. 2 hours each. I will go first. If you attack while I sleep, know that my armor has automatic defenses. It will kill you even if I am unconscious. She lay down, and within minutes she was asleep. Or appeared to be. Taman watched her, weapon ready. She didn't move except to breathe. Her face in sleep looked younger. Less hostile. Almost peaceful. He wondered what she dreamed about. If Velkari even dreamed. If they did. Were their dreams programmed too? Did she dream of killing humans and wake up satisfied? When it was his turn to sleep, he lay down but kept one eye open. He didn't trust her. Couldn't trust her. She had murdered Hyun without hesitation. She would do the same to him if she got the chance. The truce was temporary, survival, nothing more, but she didn't attack. When he woke, she was examining a wall panel trying to restore power. She glanced at him, then back at her work. They were still alive. Still together. Still trapped. The storm above continued to rage. The tunnels occasionally shook from more collapses. Time lost meaning. They found a mostly functional computer terminal and Aranel accessed it. Maps appeared showing the tunnel system. Most of it was red, collapsed or compromised. Only a few paths remained, and those were uncertain. There, she pointed. An emergency shaft. It reaches the surface 3 kilometers from here. If we can get there, we can escape. Together? Until the surface. Then we become enemies again. Fair enough. They gathered what they could carry and started moving. The path was treacherous. Flooded sections required wading through chest-deep water. Collapsed zones needed careful climbing over debris. Once they disturbed something in the dark. Rats, mutated and aggressive. Aranel's weapon made quick work of them, but not before one bit Taman's leg. The wound wasn't deep, but it bled freely. Aranel watched him bandage it with strips of cloth. She said nothing, but her expression was almost curious. Like she was studying a specimen, what? Taman asked. You stopped to treat a minor wound, she said. We should keep moving. Every minute here is danger. Yet you delay for a bite that is not immediately lethal. It could get infected. And if it does, you treat it then, or you die. Either way, stopping now is inefficient. I'm not built like you, Taman said. I get one body. I need to take care of it. We also get one body. The difference is we respect its engineering. We trust it to handle minor problems while we focus on major ones. They continued. The journey to the emergency shaft took 8 hours. 8 hours of crawling through darkness, climbing over wreckage, squeezing through gaps barely wide enough for a human. Aranel had to remove her armor in some places. Underneath, she wore a thin black suit that covered her from neck to feet. Her skin was pale purple, her build lean and muscular. Finally, they reached the shaft. It was a vertical tunnel with a ladder B. The mansion stood on a hill overlooking what used to be the city center. It was the colonial governor's residence, built from imported earthstone and local materials. Half of it had collapsed. The other half remained standing, stubborn and lonely against the ruined skyline. Taman found it 5 days after leaving the tunnels. He had been moving constantly, scavenging, avoiding patrols from both sides. He had seen no sign of Junho or Mina, no sign of other survivors. Just ashen bodies and the sound of distant weapons fire. New Busan was becoming a graveyard. The mansion was empty. Or seemed to be. Taman approached carefully, watching for traps. The front door hung open. Inside, furniture lay broken and scattered. But the walls were mostly intact. The roof held. And in the basement, he found something precious. A working power generator. Lights, heat, running water from underground reserves. For the first time in weeks, Taman felt something like safety. He was checking the upper floors when he heard movement below. Footsteps. Light. Someone else had found the mansion. Taman grabbed his weapon and moved to investigate. He expected soldiers. Looters. Anything but what he found. Princess Aranel stood in the main hall, her armor dirty and damaged. Her face was bruised. She held her weapon loosely, pointed at the floor. When she saw Taman, she didn't raise it. She just sighed. Of course, she said. Of course it would be you. What are you doing here? Taman kept his weapon trained on her. The same as you, seeking shelter. The storm damaged my communication equipment. I cannot reach my ship. I cannot reach my fleet. I am stranded. She looked around the mansion. This place has power, water, defensible position. I had hoped to rest here. Repair my equipment, then I find a human already present. They stared at each other. The same situation as the tunnels. Small space. 2 enemies. Only one could stay. Or both could. Again, truce? Taman asked. Aranel was quiet for a long time. Her face showed conflict, pain. I cannot, she finally said. The last truce was bearable because we were in immediate mortal danger. Death from collapse, from suffocation. Here, the danger is less immediate. My programming is stronger. Being near you in a calm environment is worse than in a crisis. She pressed a hand to her head. My implants are active. They monitor my brain chemistry. When I deviate from acceptable parameters, they correct me, release chemicals to restore proper hatred, proper loyalty. Right now, they are working very hard. You are not triggering my attack response as strongly as you should. This concerns them. They are compensating. You're saying your own technology is torturing you? I am saying I am functioning outside specifications. My body is trying to fix that. She swayed slightly, catching herself on a wall. I have not slept properly in 4 days. The implants keep waking me, warning me. I'm exhausted. Taman made a decision he knew might be stupid. Stay, we maintain distance. Opposite ends of the mansion. We don't interact unless necessary. When one of us gets rescue or repair, we leave. Deal? Aranel looked at him with those dark eyes. Why would you offer this? Because you're falling apart. Because leaving you outside means you die. And... Taman paused. And I've seen enough death. If we can avoid more, even temporarily, I'd like to. I killed your friend. I know. I haven't forgotten. But that doesn't mean I want to kill you. Not like this. Aranel studied him. Then she nodded slowly. Very well. But know this. If my implants decide you are too much of a threat, I may attack without warning. My conscious mind may not be able to stop it. If that happens, shoot me. Do not hesitate. It will be self-defense. They established boundaries. Aranel took the west wing. Taman took the east. They met only in the kitchen to access supplies. Conversation was minimal, tense, but they managed. Days passed. Taemin worked on repairing a radio he found. Aranel worked on her armor and communication gear. They existed in parallel, two orbits that occasionally intersected. On the third night, Taemin woke to screaming. He grabbed his weapon and ran toward the sound, found Aranel in her room, sitting upright in her makeshift bed, her face twisted in terror. She was breathing hard, shaking. When she saw Taemin, she raised her weapon, then lowered it. Then just sat there, confused. What was that? Taemin asked from the doorway. I don't know. Aranel's voice was small, uncertain. I was sleeping. Then I was here. Somewhere else, somewhere dark. You were there but different, wrong. I was trying to kill you but couldn't, my weapons wouldn't work. You kept walking toward me and I felt... She paused. Fear, I felt fear. A nightmare. Velkari do not have nightmares. Our sleep is regulated, optimized. We do not experience anxiety dreams. But her hands were still shaking. You just did, Taemin said gently. Aranel looked at her hands like they belonged to someone else. Something is wrong with me. The implants are failing, or I am failing. I don't know which. She looked up at him. You should kill me now, while I am weak, before I regain control and kill you instead. I'm not going to kill you. Why not? I murdered your friend. I have murdered dozens of your species. I will murder more if given the chance. I am your enemy. I was born to be your enemy. Everything about me was designed to destroy you. So why do you keep helping me? Why do you show me mercy I would never show you? Taemin sat down in the doorway, keeping distance. I don't know. Maybe because mercy is what separates us from machines. You were built to hate. I wasn't. I get to choose. And I choose not to become what hurt me. Aranel laughed. It was a bitter sound. How noble. How very human. And how stupid. She stood, walking to the window. The city burned below, countless fires in the darkness. You think mercy makes you strong? It makes you weak. My people conquered half the galaxy because we do not hesitate. Do not doubt. Do not show mercy to those who threaten us. And yet you're alone in a ruined mansion, barely functional, separated from your people. How's that conquest working out? Aranel turned to him. For a moment he thought she would attack. Her face showed rage. Then it crumbled. She looked away. I was born to despise you, she said quietly. Everything in my blood, my mind, my very cells screams that you are the enemy. When I look at you, I should feel only hate, only disgust. But I don't understand why I keep hesitating. Why in the tunnels I didn't kill you when you slept. Why here I agreed to your truce. Why when you came to check on me just now, my first instinct wasn't to attack. She pressed her forehead against the window. My implants are failing. They must be. That is the only explanation. I am malfunctioning. Becoming something I was not meant to be. Taemin wanted to say something. Comfort her somehow. But what comfort could he give? She was right. Everything about her was built to hate him. And now that programming was breaking down, leaving her lost and confused. Maybe, he said carefully. You're not malfunctioning. Maybe you're just becoming yourself. Without the programming. Without the hate, just Aranel. There is no Aranel without the programming. It is not something added to me. It is me. Remove it and I'm nothing. A broken tool. Useless. Or maybe you're finally free. She looked at him. Really looked at him. Not with hate. Not with disgust. Just looked. I don't want to be free, she said.
Freedom is terrifying.
Hatred is simple. Clear. It tells me what to do. Who to fight. Who I am. Without it, I am lost. They stayed like that for a while. Taemin in the doorway. Aranel at the window. The city burning below them. The war continuing. Two enemies who weren't quite enemies anymore. Two people who didn't know what they were becoming. Finally, Aranel spoke again. Tell me about him. Your friend. The one I killed. Hyun? Yes, tell me about him. I want to understand what I destroyed. So Taemin told her. About Hyun's terrible jokes. His skill with engines. His family back on Earth. A wife and daughter he would never see again. How he had saved Taemin's life twice during their service. How he had been terrified of space but signed up anyway because he believed in humanity's expansion to the stars. Aranel listened without interruption. When Taemin finished, she was quiet. Then barely audible, she said, I am sorry. What? I said I am sorry. For killing him. For causing you pain. I did not understand what I was doing. Not truly. To me, he was just an enemy. A target, but he was a person. He mattered, and I ended him without thought. She turned to face Taman. This feeling. This guilt. Is this what humans experience? This weight? Sometimes, yes. It is horrible. I do not like it. Neither do we. But it keeps us human. It reminds us that our actions matter. That other people are real. Aranel nodded slowly. She looked exhausted. More tired than when she had been in the tunnels. Like something inside her was using all her energy just to function. You should rest, Taman said. I'll keep watch tonight. If you have more nightmares, I'll be here. Why would you do that? Because nobody should face their nightmares alone. Aranel considered this. Then she lay back down on her bed. Taman, if my implants take over, if I attack you while I am not myself, I want you to know. Some part of me, the part that is emerging without the hate, does not want to hurt you. Remember that when you defend yourself. I will. She closed her eyes. Taman stayed in the doorway watching over her. She slept fitfully, making small sounds of distress, but no more screams. The night passed slowly. Dawn came, gray and dusty. Aranel woke, looking at Taman still sitting in the doorway. You stayed, she. The mansion shook with the force of the explosion. Taman was thrown from his bed, landing hard on the floor. Dust rained from the ceiling. The lights flickered, failed, then came back on emergency power. Red instead of white. Warning colors, orbital bombardment had begun. Taman ran to the window. The sky was on fire. Hundreds of streaks of light fell from orbit. Missiles and kinetic weapons and energy beams. They struck the city in waves, each impact creating a bloom of destruction. Buildings that had survived the first attacks were vaporized. The ground shook continuously like an earthquake that never ended. They have decided, Aranel's voice came from behind him. She stood in the doorway, fully armored. Both sides. If neither can hold New Busan, then New Busan must cease to exist. Another impact, closer this time. The mansion groaned. Part of the west wing collapsed. They had minutes, maybe less. We need to go, Taman said. Now. They grabbed what they could. Supplies, weapons, water. The communication equipment they had been repairing. None of it would matter if they were dead. They ran from the mansion as another strike hit the hill beside them. The shockwave threw them down the slope, tumbling through dust and debris. Taman's ears rang. His vision blurred. He forced himself up, looking around. The city below was an inferno. Every building burning. The air was full of ash. It felt like black snow covering everything. The ashes of war. The ashes of New Busan. The ashes of 30,000 people who had just wanted to live on a new world. Aranel, he called. He couldn't see her through the dust. Here! She emerged from the smoke, limping. Part of her armor was cracked. Purple blood seeped from a wound on her shoulder. My suit's medical systems are compromised. I need to stop the bleeding. Can you walk? I am walking. The question is how far? Not far enough, Taman thought. The bombardment was systematic. They were destroying the entire colony. Grid by grid, sector by sector. There was nowhere safe. But staying here meant certain death. So they moved. The streets were chaos. Buildings collapsed around them. Fires created winds that pulled them in different directions. The air was too hot to breathe without covering their faces. Taman tore strips from his shirt, soaking them in water for makeshift masks. They helped, but not much. Aranel was slowing down. The wound was worse than she admitted. She needed medical attention. Real attention, not field patches. But there was nothing. No hospitals. No aid stations. Just fire and ash and death. They took shelter in a collapsed transit station as another wave of strikes hit. The station's underground section was partially intact. They descended into relative safety. Above them, the world ended. Below, they sat in darkness, listening to the thunder of destruction. I need to see the wound, Taman said. Aranel hesitated, then deactivated part of her armor. The shoulder plate separated, revealing the injury. A piece of shrapnel had penetrated, lodging deep. Purple blood flowed freely. Her skin around the wound was pale, almost white. Can you remove it? She asked. If I do, you might bleed out. If I don't, it might cause infection or damage. Remove it. Blood loss I can survive. Infection will be slower but certain. Taman worked carefully, using tools from his kit. The shrapnel was jagged, embedded in muscle. Aranel made no sound as he pulled it free. Didn't flinch. Just watched him work with those dark eyes. When it was out, He packed the wound with coagulant foam and sealed it with medical tape. Crude but functional. "Thank you," Aranel said quietly. "We're not even yet. You saved my life in the tunnels." "I do not remember saving your life. You warned me about a weak floor section. I would have fallen through otherwise." "That counts." Aranel seemed to consider this. "Perhaps. Or perhaps I simply did not want to navigate alone." They rested in the darkness. Above, the bombardment continued. Hours passed. Taman checked their supplies. Water was low. Food enough for maybe 3 days. Medical supplies mostly exhausted. They couldn't stay here long. "Why?" Aranel asked suddenly. "Why what? Why are your people doing this? Why destroy the colony completely? There is no strategic value in rubble, no resources in ash. This is waste. Pointless waste. Because your people started it. Because we're angry. Because we're scared. Because when someone hurts you, you hurt them back, even if it doesn't make sense." Taman leaned his head against the wall. "We're not always logical. Sometimes we're just emotional and stupid. My people are doing the same. Our fleet is destroying what yours cannot take. We are equally stupid, it seems." "Common ground at last," Aranel laughed. It was a strange sound. Taman had never heard her laugh before. It was almost human. "Yes, we are both fools, fighting over a dead world, killing each other for ashes." The bombardment finally stopped at sunset, or what would have been sunset. The sky was too dark with smoke to tell. They emerged from the transit station into a changed world. Nothing recognizable remained. Every building was gone, every street erased. Just ruins and fire and ash falling from the sky like cursed snow. They walked through the ashes. There was nowhere to go, but staying still meant dying. So they walked. Aranel was weaker now, the wound and blood loss taking their toll. She leaned on Taman for support. He held her up. Their enemy-ally arrangement became something stranger. Something neither could name. There, Aranel pointed. In the distance, a structure still stood. Not a building. A monument. Some kind of memorial built from stone that had withstood the bombardment. It was small shelter, but shelter nonetheless. They made their way toward it. The journey took hours. Every step was agony. The ground was hot enough to burn through their boots. The air was poison, but they kept moving, because stopping meant giving up, and neither was ready to do that. The memorial was a simple stone structure, open on 2 sides but with a roof. Inside were names. Thousands of names. Colonists who had died building New Busan in the early years. Now the entire colony had joined them in death. Taman wondered if anyone would build a memorial for them. Probably not. No one left to build it. Night fell. The temperature dropped rapidly. Fire and ash gave way to cold. Taman started a small fire using debris. They sat close to it, sharing what little heat it provided. Aranel was shivering. Her body temperature was dropping. The wound was draining her. "Talk to me," Taman said. "Stay awake." "About what?" "Anything. Your home. Your family. What it's like being a princess." Aranel was quiet for a moment. Then she began to speak. "I have 7 siblings. All older. All more accomplished. I am the youngest. Despair. I was sent to this war to prove myself. To show I was worthy of my position. My father, the Emperor, he does not believe females should lead, but he allows us to command if we earn it. So I command. I kill, I conquer. And I hate every moment of it. Then why do it? Because it is my function. My purpose. A blade does not question why it cuts. It simply cuts. I am a blade, forged and sharpened for war. This is what I am for. That's sad, is it? I thought it was simply reality. Aranel looked at the fire. But lately I wonder what I could be if I was not a blade. If I was just Aranel without the title, without the programming, without the war. What would I do? What would I want? What do you think? I do not know. I have never been allowed to know. My life was decided before I was born. Every step planned. Every choice made for me. Even my emotions are not my own. They are chemicals and implants and conditioning. She turned to Taman. Is that what it means to be alive? To have everything you are controlled by others? No, that's what it means to be a prisoner. Then I have been in prison my entire life. And I did not even know there were walls until I met you. She sagged against him, too weak to sit upright anymore. Taman caught her, holding her up. Her armor was cold, her breathing shallow. She was dying. Slowly but dying. The wound was infected despite the treatment. Alien physiology reacting badly to human medicine. Stay with me, Taman said. Just a little longer. Why? What difference does it make? I am your enemy. Let me die. It makes your life easier. Because you're not just an enemy anymore. You're Aranel, and you deserve to live, to choose. To be free. Aranel's eyes focused on him. I don't want to die, she whispered. I thought I did. Thought it would end the confusion, the pain of becoming something new. But I don't want to die. I want to see what happens next. Want to know who I could be without the hate. Then hold on. Please. She pressed closer to him, seeking warmth. Everything I was taught says you're vermin. Everything I am was designed to eradicate your kind. But you're the only real thing I've ever known. The only person who has seen me break and did not turn away. I was born to despise you, Taman. Born to kill you. But I don't. I don't despise you. And that terrifies me more than death. Taman held her through the night. Her fever rose. She shook with chills despite the fire. She talked in her delirium, switching between languages. Sometimes she seemed to think he was her enemy and tried to push away. Other times she clung to him like he was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. At dawn, another figure appeared through the ash. Taman raised his weapon with one hand, the other still holding Aranel. The figure approached slowly, hands raised. It was wearing Velkari armor, but not attacking. Princess? The figure called. The voice was female. The armor was damaged but functional. Princess Aranel? Who are you? Taman demanded. The figure stopped, removing her helmet. She was Velkari. Older than Aranel, woke 3 days later in a bunker deep beneath the ruined city. The space was cramped, lit by emergency lights that flickered unreliably. It smelled of recycled air and too many bodies pressed into too small a space. She could hear voices, human and Velkari both, speaking in low tones. It took her a moment to remember where she was, how she got here. Taman sat nearby cleaning a weapon. When he saw her eyes open, he smiled. It was small, tired, but genuine. Welcome back. You were out for a while. How long? Her voice was rough, throat dry. 3 days. Kale kept you sedated while your body healed. Said it was better than letting you wake up in pain. He offered water. She took it, drinking slowly. Her shoulder ached but didn't scream. The wound was healing. Where are we? Bunker complex. Old military installation from the colony's early days. About 40 people here. Survivors from both sides. Humans, Velkari, even a few others. Everyone too injured or too isolated to get off-world. So we hide. Together. Aranel sat up slowly. Her armor was in a corner, cleaned and partially repaired. She wore a simple gray jumpsuit, human-made. It felt wrong on her skin. Too rough. Too foreign. But it was clean. This is impossible. My people would never cooperate with humans. Your people would never trust Velkari. And yet here we are. Taman gestured around. Funny what desperation does. Makes enemies into allies. At least temporarily. Kale appeared in the doorway. She had removed most of her armor, wearing similar jumpsuit to Aranel. Her face was carefully neutral. Princess. You're awake, good. We need to talk. Aranel stood, ignoring the dizziness. Report. The war continues above. Both fleets fight for control of the orbital space. The surface is abandoned, uninhabitable. Radiation levels are rising. Toxic chemicals in the air. We have maybe 2 weeks before this bunker becomes a tomb. Kale paused. And there is other news. Bad news. Tell me. Your father, the Emperor, has issued a decree. You are declared traitor, outcast. Your genetic code is to be purged from Imperial records. Your name stricken. If any Velkari finds you, they are ordered to execute you on sight. No trial, no mercy. You are erased, Princess. You no longer exist, the words hit like physical blows. Aranel felt her legs weaken. She sat down heavily. Why? Because you were seen. With him. Kale nodded toward Taman. During the bombardment. A surveillance drone captured you. Being carried by a human. Protected by a human. And you did not kill him. The Emperor decided this meant genetic corruption. Failure of programming. You are considered defective. Dangerous to the Empire's purity. Aranel looked at her hands. They were shaking. Everything she was, everything she had been, erased. Her family, her title, her purpose. Gone. Because she had shown weakness. Because she had failed to hate properly. I am sorry, Princess, Kale said quietly. This is unjust. But it is done. Don't call me that anymore. I have no title, no rank. I am nothing. No, Taman said firmly. You're Aranel. Just Aranel. Not princess, not weapon, not tool, yourself, free. Free? Aranel laughed bitterly. Is this what freedom feels like? Loss, pain, being cast out by everyone you know? Sometimes, yes, freedom isn't always good. But it's real. Footsteps approached. A human entered, older male with graying hair. Taemin stood. Junho, you made it. Barely. Junho looked worn, thin, older than his years. But alive. Mina didn't. Infection took her the day after you disappeared. I'm sorry, Taemin. I tried everything. Taemin closed his eyes. Another friend gone. Another life the war had taken. How many more before this ended? Yunyo turned to Aranel. You're the princess. The one Taemin told me about. Not a princess anymore. Just Aranel. Good, because we need Aranel. Not a Velkari princess. Someone who can help us survive. He sat down, pulling out a datapad. I've been monitoring communications. Both fleets. And I heard something. Earth and the Velkari homeworld are negotiating. Preliminary talks. Very secret. Both sides are exhausted. The war's bleeding them dry. They want peace. Impossible, Kale said. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. The Empire is losing ships faster than they can build them. Humans are adapting. Learning. Reverse engineering Velkari technology. We're becoming a real threat. Your Emperor knows this. He wants to end the war before humans become strong enough to threaten the homeworld. Aranel processed this. It made sense. The Empire was ancient, yes. Advanced, yes. But not infinite. Resources ran out. Soldiers died. And humans bred fast, learned fast, adapted fast. In a long war, humans might actually win. The Emperor would see this. Would want to end things on his terms. What does this have to do with us? She asked. Everything. Junho leaned forward. There's a human diplomatic ship coming. Ambassador Soman. She wants to meet with survivors. Collect stories. Evidence that coexistence is possible. She heard rumors of mixed groups surviving together. She wants proof to take to the peace talks. They want to use us, Taemin said. Propaganda. Yes, but also opportunity. Junho looked at Aranel. You're exiled. Your own people want you dead. But you have information. Knowledge of the Empire. Military secrets. Cultural insights. You could help humanity negotiate from a position of strength. And in return, humanity could offer you protection. A new life? You want me to betray my people? I want you to save both peoples. This war benefits no one. It's burning through both civilizations. Someone needs to step forward. Someone who has seen both sides. Someone who knows the cost of hatred. Junho's voice softened. You could be that someone. You and Taemin both, together. Aranel looked at Taemin. He met her eyes. In them, she saw understanding. He knew what Junho was asking. Knew it was dangerous, impossible. Might get them both killed, but also knew it was the only way forward. What do you think? She asked him. I think we've already lost everything. Our homes, our people, our identities. We're ghosts, dead but still walking. So why not? Why not try to make our deaths mean something? Poetic, depressing, very human. That's us. Depressing poets, he smiled. But seriously, I'm with you. Whatever you decide. Aranel stood walking to the wall. She pressed her hand against the cold concrete. Beyond it, kilometers of rock and earth. And beyond that, the ruins of New Busan. And beyond that, the stars. Where two civilizations killed each other over fear and pride and programming. She had been made to hate. Born to kill. Raised to see humans as vermin. Everything in her biology screamed that Taemin was enemy. That helping humanity was betrayal. That she should die before cooperating. But she was broken now. The programming corrupted. The implants failing. She felt things she shouldn't. Questioned things she shouldn't. Chose things she was never meant to choose. Maybe broken was better. I will do it, she said finally. I will speak to this ambassador. Share what I know. Help end this war. But I have conditions. Name them, Junho said. First, any Velkari who wish to defect to remove their programming and choose freedom must be given sanctuary. Not just me, all of us. Second, when the war ends, I want immunity. Full pardon for any actions I took during the conflict. I will not be tried as a war criminal. Third, she looked at Taemin. He comes with me. As my advisor, partner. Whatever term you use. Where I go, he goes, non-negotiable. Junho nodded. I'll pass these terms to the ambassador. But I think she'll agree. The story of a Velkari princess and a human engineer working together to end the war. That's powerful. That's the narrative both sides need to justify peace. Over the next week, more survivors trickled into the bunker. Word had spread somehow that this place was safe, that enemies could put down weapons here, live together. Most were skeptical, but desperation won out. The bunker population swelled to 60, then 70. Human, Velkari, and others. All broken, all lost, all clinging to life in the dark. Aranel spent time with each Velkari who arrived. She explained what had happened to her. The programming breaking down, the freedom and terror of choosing. Some rejected her words, kept their hate intact, but others listened. Some even asked how to break their own programming. She didn't have perfect answers, but she tried. Kyle became her second, not her guard anymore, her friend. They talked late into the nights about what it meant to be Velkari without the Empire, about who they could become if they weren't soldiers. About fear and hope in the future. Taman organized the humans, established supply lines, guard rotations, rationing systems. He had a talent for logistics, for making order from chaos. People listened to him, trusted him. He never pulled rank, never commanded, just suggested, and people followed. At night, Aranel and Taman would sit together in a quiet corner of the bunker. They didn't always talk. Sometimes they just existed in the same space. The hate was gone now. Fully. What replaced it, Aranel couldn't name. Wasn't programmed to understand. But it felt warm, safe, right? When this is over, she asked one night, if we survive, what will you do? Taman thought about it. I don't know. Build something, maybe. I'm an engineer. That's what I do. Create things. Make things work. What about you? I have no idea. I have never been allowed to consider it. My whole life was planned. Now I have no plan. No purpose. It is terrifying. That's called freedom. I am beginning to understand why my people fear it so much. It is chaos, uncertainty. So much easier to be told what to do, what to think, what to hate. Easier, yes. But better? I don't think so. Ambassador, the station floated in neutral space far from any sun. It was old, built by a species long extinct, now maintained by scavengers and outlaws. The perfect place for people who didn't officially exist. Aranel had been here for 6 months. 6 months since leaving New Busan. 6 months since the world changed. The quarters were small but private. She shared them with Taman, a situation that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Now it was just normal. He was at the small desk working on something. Always working. Always building. She watched him from the doorway, studying the way his hands moved. Precise, careful, creating instead of destroying. You're staring, he said without looking up. I am thinking. Dangerous activity. Very. She sat on the narrow bed. I received a message. From Kale, she has gathered others. 15 Velkari who want to remove their programming. They are asking for my help. Taman turned to face her. And I am not qualified. I do not understand what happened to me. How my programming broke. How to break others. I might damage them. Make things worse. You're scared, terrified. These are lives. Real lives. If I fail, they die. Or worse, they remain in limbo. Not programmed, not free. Just broken. But if you succeed, they get what you have. Choice, freedom. Isn't that worth the risk? Aranel considered this. 6 months ago, the question would have been meaningless. Risk was calculated, acceptable or unacceptable. Now she understood it differently. Risk meant possibility. The chance for something better. The chance to fail catastrophically. Both at once. I will try, she decided. I will help them. Or fail trying. Either way, I must try. A knock on the door interrupted them. Junio entered looking agitated. You need to see this. Both of you. Now. They followed him to the station's communication hub. A crowd had gathered, watching the main screen. On it, news broadcasts from multiple sources played simultaneously. Human networks, Velkari channels, neutral feeds, all showing the same thing. The peace talks had collapsed. The hardliners won, Junho explained. Both sides. Earth's military council refused to acknowledge Velkari sovereignty. The Empire refused to recognize humans as sentient equals. The talks broke down 3 days ago. They kept it quiet until now. What does this mean? Aranel asked, though she already knew. War, full war. Not the limited conflict we've had. Totalva. Earth is mobilizing every ship. The Empire is sending its core fleets. This will be extinction level. One side will cease to exist. Maybe both, the crowd murmured. Fear rippled through the station. Many here were refugees from the war, humans and Velkari both. They had hoped for peace, had believed it was possible. Now that hope was ash. There's more, Junho said. He pulled up another feed. This one showed Ambassador Soman. She looked tired, defeated. She gave a statement. She's defying orders. She and other young diplomats from both sides. They're organizing a summit. Unofficial. Unsanctioned. They want to bypass the governments entirely. Create a grassroots peace movement. That's suicide, Taman said. Both sides will see it as treason. Yes, but it's the only option left. She's asking for support. For people to come forward. To share stories of coexistence. To prove that another way is possible. Junho looked at Aranel and Taman. She's asking for you specifically. Both of you. To speak at the summit. To be the face of this movement. Aranel felt cold. We will be targets. Our governments will hunt us, kill us, make examples of us. Probably. But you're already targets. Already hunted. At least this way your deaths might mean something. The room was quiet. On the screens the war escalated. Ships engaged in battles across multiple systems. Planets were threatened. Colonies evacuated. It was everything Aranel had been programmed to want. Total victory. Complete domination. The extinction of the enemy. But she felt nothing but sorrow. When is this summit? She asked. 2 weeks. On Threshold Station. A massive neutral station on the border. Thousands of people are expected. Diplomats, refugees, soldiers, civilians. Anyone who wants peace. It will be dangerous. Security will be impossible. Assassins from both sides will be there. Then we need to be there too. Aranel looked at Taman. Unless you object. This is not your fight alone. You could walk away. Find safety somewhere. Alone. Taman laughed. I think I've gotten used to having you around. Besides, someone needs to keep you out of trouble. I am the one keeping you out of trouble. We'll argue about it on the way to the summit. Over the next 2 weeks, they prepared. Kale and her group of awakened Velkari joined them. Junho organized human refugees who wanted to help. Word spread through underground networks. More people arrived. Some were soldiers deserting their posts. Some were civilians tired of losing family to war. Some were just tired. But they came. Threshold Station was massive. A city in space. Millions lived here. Trading, working, existing in the gaps between empires. The summit was being held in the central plaza, a huge open space under a transparent dome. Above, stars shone cold and distant. Below, thousands gathered. Security was minimal by design. Ambassador Soman wanted this to feel open, accessible. A gathering of equals, not a military operation, but that meant danger. Aranel could feel eyes on her as they entered. Some curious, some hostile, some calculating. Assassins mixed with peace seekers. Death walked among hope. The plaza was divided into sections, human Velkari and neutral zones, but many ignored the divisions, mixing freely. Aranel saw Velkari speaking with humans, saw mixed groups sharing food, saw children, both species playing together. It was strange, surreal. Everything she had been taught said this was impossible, yet here it was. Happening. A stage had been erected at the center. Speakers would present their cases here, their stories, their arguments for peace. Ambassador Soman was first. She spoke plainly about the cost of war. The resources wasted. The lives lost. The futures destroyed. She spoke with passion but also data. Numbers that couldn't be denied. Both civilizations were bleeding themselves dry. Other speakers followed. A human mother who had lost 3 children in the war. A Velkari soldier who had deserted after being ordered to destroy a civilian ship. A traitor who had watched his station burn in crossfire. Each story built on the last. Each voice added weight. Then it was Aranel's turn. She walked onto the stage with Taman beside her. The crowd hushed. A Velkari princess standing with a human engineer. The symbolism was obvious, heavy. Some in the crowd cheered. Others booed. Most just watched, waiting. Aranel looked out at the thousands of faces. Human and Velkari both. She saw the programming in the Velkari, the way their eyes tracked her with suspicion and hate. She had looked the same once, felt the same. She understood them completely. My name is Aranel, she began. Her voice carried across the plaza through speakers. I have no title anymore. No rank, no home. 6 months ago, I was Princess Aranel of the Velkari Empire. commander of the warship Crimson Talon. I was sent to destroy humans, to cleanse them from space. This was my purpose, my function, what I was made for. She paused, letting the words settle. I was born to despise you, she said, looking at the human section. All of you. Every human who exists. I was genetically modified before birth to see you as enemies. My brain was structured to produce hate when I saw your faces. My body was programmed to attack when I heard your voices. This is not metaphor, this is biology. I was a weapon aimed at your species. Murmurs spread through the crowd, some angry, some fearful. She continued. And then I crashed on New Busan, separated from my people, injured, alone, and I met him. She gestured to Taman, a human engineer, my enemy. Everything I was told me to kill him. Everything I was made for screamed at me to destroy him. But I didn't. And the more time I spent near him, the more my programming broke down. The hate faded, the disgust weakened, and underneath I found something I was never supposed to have. Choice. She took a breath. I learned that he was not vermin, not primitive, not inferior. He was a person, with thoughts, feelings, dreams, fears, just like me. And when I saw that, truly saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't go back to hating. The programming tried to force me back. My implants punished me for deviating, but it was too late. I had seen the truth. The crowd was silent now, listening. Aranel continued, her voice stronger. I am not special. I am not unique. Every Velkari can experience what I experienced. We can all break free of our programming. We can all choose. But we were taught that questioning is weakness, that doubt is corruption, that anything outside our programming is malfunction. She looked at the Velkari section. I am here to tell you that you are not malfunctioning. You are waking up. And waking up is terrifying, but it is also necessary. She stepped forward. This war was started by people who made us, who programmed us, who decided we should hate before we were even born. They made this conflict inevitable, but we don't have to continue it. We can choose differently. We can be more than weapons, more than tools. We can be ourselves. Taman stepped forward then. I lost friends in this war, family, people I loved. I had every reason to hate all Velkari, to want revenge, to want genocide. And I did want that, for a while. Every time I saw Velkari forces, I wanted them dead, wanted to hurt them the way they hurt me.